Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to Insights in the Parsha of the Week, Parshat Yitro. It's, as everybody knows, a very rich, heavy Parsha. We want to pick up one specific point, a tiny point, but I think it has a lot of meaning. Let's open the Chumash. Okay, we're in Parshat Yitro, chapter 19, verse 8. It's in the fifth Aliyah. It's that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to inform the Jewish people and ask them if they want to receive the Torah and on Hashem's conditions, etc. So verse 8, chapter 19, verse 8 reads like this. Vaya'anu chol ha'am yachdav vayomru. So, and the whole nation replied to Moshe Rabbeinu, all in unison, and said the following. Kol asher diber Hashem na'aseh. Everything in which Hashem has spoken that we should is asking us to do, accept, we will do. And then the verse continues, Vayashev Moshe et divrei ha'am el Hashem. And Moshe replied the response of the nation to Hashem. The obvious question is, Hashem knows. Hashem knows. Why does Moshe Rabbeinu have to reply to Hashem what the Jewish people said? What the Jewish people replied? Hashem knows everything. Rashi asks this question himself. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Vayashev Moshe divrei ha'am, Vayashev Moshe divrei ha'am, and Moshe replied the words of the nation back to Hashem. And this is, he's telling us first, Rashi, what day it was. Biyom ha'macharat shehu yom shlishi. This is on the third day of Sivan. Because there's a rule, there's also a deep thing, why, which we won't go into right now. Shari b'hashkama Allah. That every time Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai to talk to God, it took place in the early morning, so he couldn't go come down and go back up again. He had to wait for the next day. So that's why this was the third day. So here's the famous thing: V'chi tzarich haya Moshe lehashiv, and was it necessary for Moshe to reply back to Hashem? Hashem knows everything. Why does he need Moshe to come back and tell him? So watch this. Ela ba hakatuv lelamedcha derech Eretz mi-Moshe. So rather the verse is coming to teach you proper conduct, which in Hebrew is called, in the holy language is called derech Eretz, to learn proper conduct, derech Eretz, from Moshe. Shelo amar, that he didn't say, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't assume, ho'il v'yodea mi sheshelachani, since the person who sent me, God forbid, since the one who sent me, which is Hashem, he knows already, Eini tzarich lashiv. There's no need for me to add reply back. Why do I have to go back? He knows already. So that you shouldn't say that, right? We learned from Moshe Rabbeinu that he went back to reply. The question is, but one second. If now Hashem really does know everything, why does he need Moshe Rabbeinu to reply to him? You know, what is this? What is it to learn? What is it derech Eretz for us? What is it proper conduct for us to learn that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't reply to him? If Hashem is all-knowing, all understanding, you would think the opposite. You know, he can hear Am Yisrael saying, "We accept, we want to receive the Torah." So Hashem hears that. What's wrong with that? Well, I mean, what's missing in derech Eretz here? If it's applying to God, Hashem, you know, He's all hearing. So there's a lot of depth in here. Let's try to explain this idea. Moshe Rabbeinu went down from the mountain to the nation, okay, and now he hears what the nation has to say. Hashem wants him to come back up and to tell them. And this is called derech Eretz. What is the translation of derech Eretz? Derech Eretz translates as the way of the land. The idea is proper conduct. But literally, derech Eretz translates and means making a way, a pathway in earth. What's the idea? There is an attitude that Hashem is all-knowing and it's all spiritual, so there's no need to do a physical activity to shape as a vessel for this idea. Here, though, Hashem is teaching Moshe Rabbeinu for receiving the Torah, which is the highest pinnacle of the creation, up to even the most mundane activity, a person has to use what's called derech Eretz. Derech Eretz basically means using physicality as a means to serve and express spiritual. In this case, Hashem said Moshe Rabbeinu, ask the nation. And then the answer, we want to receive the Torah. Hashem specifically wants Moshe Rabbeinu to use a physical conduit, which is him going back up, ascending the mountain, and yes, using his physical mouth and teeth and tongue and lungs and voice to express before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's all-knowing, yes, the nation wants to receive the Torah. What is this idea here? This shows that even the greatest spiritual devotions and activities, still, they are incomplete. Rebbe Nachman goes into this a lot in Likutey Moharan. They are incomplete without the physical part, part in the devotion. If it's all just spiritual, like in this case, Moshe Rabbeinu would have the idea, and the idea is it's expressed already that the Jewish people want to receive the Torah. Okay, Hashem heard that, it's done. So it'll be all spiritual. Hashem wants, especially such a big event of receiving the Torah, that every detail of it should be in a physical compartment, a physical vessel, a kli. And in this case, the Moshe Rabbeinu would have to go up to respond. Yes, the Jews want to, it's unbelievable. It's like Hashem uses this means specifically in order to continue the next stage of the giving of the Torah, because he wants it to come through a physical vessel, in this case, Moshe Rabbeinu responding. This idea that even though the spiritual is understood, but it's incomplete without physical, is also expressed in Rebbe Nachman's life. Rebbe Nachman lost a daughter very young. Her name was Fega. And when she passed away, she was being nursed by a wet nurse from a different village. And she even got sick. And they resorted to a non-Jew who was a sorcerer. Even though sorcerers at the time were not so existent, this guy was a real sorcerer. And he was using sorcery to try to heal her. And she died. And her soul came to Rebbe Nachman, her father, telling him that she passed away and the damage caused by the family using a sorcerer to try to heal her. So he knew all of this, and when he came home, the family didn't want to tell him at all that his daughter died. They wanted to hide it from him. And they succeeded in hiding it over a month. Until after a month, he came out and he told his daughter, he called in his oldest daughter, Odil, and he said to her, tell me the truth. And she said, she passed away. And halacha is that if over a month passes after the person, a relative dies, halacha is you only sit down mourning for 1 hour. You don't do the shiva the whole 7 days, only if it's within 30 days of the death and the burial. But in this case, it was already over a month, so all Rebbe Nachman had to do was just 1 hour. And after this happened, Rebbe Nachman said like this: even if a person knows something through divine inspiration, through Ruach HaKodesh, in this case, even though a person knows of a death of a family member already through Ruach HaKodesh, still he's not obligated to keep the laws of mourning until he actually hears from a physical person. When he gets the news in the physical domain, then halacha kicks in, and he's required according to halacha to mourning. And if nobody tells him, he can stay that way. He doesn't have to do any mourning, nothing, because even if he knows through divine inspiration what's going on, as long as it doesn't go through a physical transition and transportation of a vehicle, of a message, so he's no obligation to do the laws of mourning. And it's an idea here. There's an idea like here also by Moshe Rabbeinu, and similar by Rebbe Nachman of knowing. It's all knowing, but it has to come through a physical conduit. So here too, the idea is that Hashem wanted specifically Moshe Rabbeinu to teach this concept of derech Eretz. What's derech Eretz? That Hashem wants everything, even the greatest spiritual devotion, it has to come through some physical compartment. Now why? Because the physicality of this world serves as being the greatest vessel for any spiritual light to be contained within it. Like us, we're a physical human being, yet Hashem gives us the capacity to grasp even the infinite light. A human being, if he maximizes himself in becoming the absolute maximum tzaddik that he potentially can, he can perceive in his physical body, with his stomach and intestines and all the food that he ate in his life, all the bread and chocolate and whatever, in his physical existence as he is, yet he can perceive the highest of levels. And that's what Hashem wants. The two opposites merge. That spirituality be contained within a physical existence. And this is the message of derech Eretz that Hashem wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to teach the Jewish nation. He knew, Moshe Rabbeinu knew that Hashem knows. What's the reason to go up? Still, to teach this message of derech Eretz, Moshe Rabbeinu went up and told Hashem. Even though he knows all-knowing, he has to make it to a physical, corporeal messenger and transition in order for then the light to be affected into the world. In this case, the light of receiving of the Torah. May we be zocheh to use this lesson and not to get carried away and just to think we're all totally spiritual and like a hermit attitude. Rather, remember that we need a balance. And everything in life is a balance. Everything. All mitzvot, connection to Hashem, is connecting the spiritual to the physical and the physical to the spiritual. That's the idea of mitzvot, and that's what Hashem wants, that his life be revealed in this world. And if a person thinks that his attitude should be just spiritual, Hashem has no need for such people. Hashem needs people who are, like it says in the Piyut of Yom Kippur by the Ashkenazim, migushe afar mikutze chomer. Hashem created man, vavita tehila migushe afar mikutze chomer. Rebbe Nachman quotes this statement. I think it's in lesson 5 part 2 or lesson 7 part 2, that Hashem wants to be praised from someone who's from physicality. That's the greatness of Hashem, of the merging of the two. And this message comes out in the shlichut that Moshe Rabbeinu taught us in this week's parsha. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach.